Okay, so in this video, we will start doing one practice test, and this is belongs to the Microsoft certification, that is Azure certification, and it is fundamental certification of DP-900. So all the question related to the databases. So let's begin the test. So question number one: you have an Azure SQL database server named Server 1 and an Elastic database pool on it called pool 1. So you have a server named server 1 and a database pool, and the name of the database pool is called pool 1. There is a database in the pool called db1. So in that particular database we have the database attached, that is db1. Your development team wants to add a second database into the same pool. So what is the effect of adding a second database into the existing elastic database pool on cost? So whether the cost will increase, whether the cost will decrease. So what will happen if we add the additional database into the existing elastic database pool? So in the this is one of the database pool types. So in the elastic database pool, what will generally happen in but so the cost will occur on the basis of pool. So let's suppose we take one pool. So it doesn't matter whether we add one database or whether we add two database. So one elastic pool can compete like approximately 100 plus databases. So if we add either one database or either two database, it doesn't matter. So no cost of the increase, so no effect on the cost. You pay for the pool and can run 100 plus database on it for the same price. You pay for the databases? No, because we are attaching the database into a pool and we already pay for the pool. So whatever the pool capacity, till that capacity we can add the number of databases. So let's see the next question. You have a custom application that uses an Azure SDK for to access Cosmos DB. So there is a one application, right, and we are using some Azure SDK kit to access the Cosmos DB. You are receiving an authentication error and you realize that you have not passed any type of credential. What type of credential does Cosmos DB? So Cosmos DB is a kind of a NoSQL database, and if we have to access the Cosmos DB, so we have to pass what thing out of this for option. So we have to pass the access key to access in our code. If we are accessing from code, one of the service of the Microsoft, so we have to pass the access key. You need to insert a new JSON document into a Cosmos DB database. So as I told you, Cosmos DB is in NoSQL database. So they told, okay, we have to insert a new JSON document, but there is a problem. All the previous customer have a valid name and the data you are attempting to insert does not have it. Okay, what happens when you attempt to add a JSON document that is missing a field that other document will have? So that is a property of the NoSQL database. So NoSQL database, there is a set of a document. So in one document, let's suppose there are 10 fields. So in another document there could be 5 fields. In another document there could be 15 fields. It doesn't matter what field the previous document contain. Alright, so they told we are inserting a new document, but all the previous customer have the valid name, and you are attempting to insert whatever the we are trying to insert that doesn't have the some name. So what will happen? So Cosmos DB will add the missing property to the document with the default value no. So Cosmos will not add any kind of field. So you must provide no. NoSQL database support not providing all properties with every record. The insert will succeed. So the insert will be succeed. Whatever the key value pair will be provided, that will automatically get inserted. It doesn't matter what key value pair exists in the previous document or will be in the upcoming documents. In the context of a relational database, what is the schema? So what is the schema in a relational database? So schema is basically a structure of the table. So out of these 4 documents, a structure of the database including table name, column, data types, indexes. So basically a structure of the database or table is called a schema. Which of the following are an example of unstructured data? So we have 2 types of data, structured and unstructured. So what is the unstructured data? So SQL Server table, SQL Server is a structured data, so this is eliminated. Oracle DB is also structured data, this is also eliminated. Log files are unstructured data. Blob storage in which we just store the images, videos, so that is also the unstructured data. CSV file, so there is no particular structure, maybe like we have like 3 rows, 8 columns, maybe, and then again like multiple columns, so no particular structured data. So the CSV file also considered as unstructured data. What type of analytics answer the question what should I do, such as recommending what movie to what next. Okay, so these question, like there are few set of questions, so you will see, might be see into the actual exam. So these are related to the data. So what they are doing, actually doing is, so let's suppose you have some data. So basically these are the four property: diagnostic, predictive, prescriptive, and descriptive. So if we know these properties, we can easily answer this question. So let's suppose we have the data. So once we have the data, so we will like do the descriptive analysis. So okay, what the data contains. So now we did the descriptive analysis, so then we will do, okay, uh, we have the data, then what should I do with the data, right? So what should I do means, like we have to do the prescriptive. So if there is any some error, then it should be come into the diagnostic, like why this is happened. And in predictive analysis, like to recommending something, like what will like happen in the future, so that is a predictive. So now what should I do, we have the data. Now we have the data means, like it's the descriptive. Okay, how much data we have, that is the descriptive. Then what should I do with the data, that is the prescriptive. A CSV file sitting in a blob storage is an example of what type of data. So whatever, there are two types of data: batch data, streaming data. So batch data, whatever the data is at rest. Rest means like it is not coming from anywhere. We have just put it, and it is like residing at one place. So that is called as a batch data. And the data which is like continuously coming from like some sensors, or like let's suppose there is CCTV camera, so it is continuously recording the video for per second and continuously sending into the database. So that is called streaming data. But we have put some file, that is and it rests at one place, so it is called as a batch data. What is the name of the SQL server by SQL used by the SQL server? So SQL server use the TSQL, so it is a Microsoft use the TSQL. Which of the following Azure database service has almost 100% compatibility with the SQL server running on your own environment? So they are saying that, okay, we have in our own premises, let's suppose we are running one SQL server. So and we have to migrate our SQL server to the Azure SQL, over to the Azure. So and there are so many options into the Azure for the SQL, but which has almost 100% like compatibility. So out of table storage, that is wrong. Azure SQL database, so just a normal SQL database. So answer is SQL managed instance. In the SQL managed instance, we will like create an SQL database, and we will decide, okay, how many virtual machine, what is the size of the machine we will need. So elastic pool is also wrong, database elastic pool. So SQL managed instance has the almost 100% compatibility, not the 100%. What is the primary purpose of an index on a relational data table? So why we put an index on the relational data table? So the primary purpose of an index is to just to speed up the queries. So if we read all these options, so to speed up the select queries, we generally use the index. So let's suppose there is a one table, and we give like indexing on ID column, like 1 to 1 million, and we have to like select those columns, those rows whose like salary is less than 50,000. So it will first sort out the index, and then we will give the answers. So otherwise it will like go one by one, and then return the answer. So index basically like speed up the query. Which Power BI tool helps build paginated reports? So we have to generate the reports. So the answer is the Power BI report builder. why should someone choose to migrate to Azure SQL, the Azure database for MySQL? So the question is, why should like someone choose to migrate to Azure database for MySQL? So if there is no impact, then should the person should choose to migrate to the Azure database for MySQL. So application that already use MySQL can be migrated without modification. Azure database for MySQL has more feature, no, so it is nothing related to the feature. It is cheaper, nothing related to the cheaper, is more sophisticated, that is totally wrong. So why should I move my application or database to the cloud? Because application that already use MySQL can be migrated without modification, because in on premises I am using the MySQL, on the cloud it is also the MySQL, so I can easily migrate from on premises MySQL to the cloud MySQL without any modification. Okay, so again this type of question, what type of analytics answer the question what happened. So what happened means such as sales report for the, okay, so what happened, I think it's gone to the descriptive, because it's not the predictive. Predictive means what will happen, so it's not the what will happen, and cognitive is totally different. Diagnostic is like something what happened, maybe diagnostic, I'm not sure, let's see after the result. How much data can be stored in a single table storage account? So a one table storage account can store up to 5 petabyte of data. But Azure database product was specifically designed to handle non-relational data such as JSON. So table storage, SQL Server, SQL, no, Cosmos is the non-relational database. What is the main benefit of normalization? So normalization means rather than creating only a one table, we will divide into multiple tables. So reduce data duplication, definitely correct. Okay, reduce common typos and errors on input. Select queries are faster, that is wrong. Forces users to select from a specific list of choices instead of using a free form field, that is wrong. So reduces common type of and error on input. So it means, let's suppose there is a one table, but as part of the normalization we make it multiple tables. So let's suppose we have one table, and in that table we have a few set, that is a state table or country table, and the country name are like India, America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, right? And there is another table in which we are trying to insert the values, and country table is like, let's suppose the foreign key. And let's suppose the India, the name of the India is INDIA, or let's suppose we are like storing the state as a USA rather than the United States of America. So if we not create any such table, so person can enter USA, or person can enter America, person can enter United States of America, but all these three things, three countries are same, right? But unnecessary it is, people are inserting the data in their own way. So better we create one table, and automatically it will reduce common types of error, because the insert will definitely will fail, because it will tell, okay, you have to this value doesn't exist as a foreign key, so you have to select only a USA or United States of America. What format is an ARM template stored in? So ARM is a JSON template. So what is the use of ARM template? So let's suppose you are spinning up a virtual machine or database. So if I told you, okay, you have to spin one virtual machine, then you can easily spin one virtual machine. If I told you have to spin 1,000 virtual machines, so you can't go one by one over the UI and click 1,000 times. So best way is to define the configuration into the resource management template, I think, and the configuration is the form of JSON format, key value format, and we will just define the 1,000 time and just run that particular template, and all the 1,000 virtual machine will be spinned up. What database style is ideally used for heavily relational relationship between people, place? So MongoDB is a NoSQL, Document DB blob storage is also the unstructured. So graph data is a like highly relational, like what people like the what places and what people like the what things. So it comes under the graph data. Which of the following Azure database would be considered as a infrastructure as a service? So infrastructure as a service means like SQL server in a VM. So it means like in Azure database. So we have to create a database into a some infrastructure. So first we will spin up a VM, and inside the VM we will create a SQL server. So SQL server in a VM. Okay, which type of database workload is a type of deep analytics? So for the analysis, so we will use the OLAP. Which of the following columns would make a good primary key? So last name could be same, that is wrong. Phone number could be primary key. Email, postal email address, so doesn't could not be the primary key, because on one address there could be 5 people. First name wrong. Employee ID, that is correct. So out of phone number and employee ID generally because phone number like maybe like one person doesn't have the phone number, right? So employee ID is the is the good example of the primary key. Generally when we set the primary key, we generally use the ID as a key field. Which of the following operating system platform is Azure Data Studio supported? So Azure Data Studio supported like all the three Mac operating system, Windows and Linux. Okay, so which database workload is used to day-to-day operation? So day-to-day operation means online transition, so OLTP. For the analysis we will use the analysis platform, but for the day-to-day transaction, so we have to use OLTP. So SQL database supports two purchasing model. What are they? So SQL database support basically two models. One is a DTU, I think database transaction unit, and virtual core. So whenever we create a like a managed instance, so it will ask it will create the database, but it will ask okay, uh, it will like create a on the back end it will spin up some machines, but it will ask okay, how much machine like you need, what is the do you need 8 core of CPU, 4 core of CPU, 16 core of CPU. So there are two purchasing model only, DTU and V core. Generally we use the V core. Scaling Azure SQL database doesn't negatively affect application using that database. That user might not even notice. Absolutely true. So Azure database like has the capacity whenever like there is a load into the application, and Azure SQL database think like it need to be scale up. So it at the back end it will automatically get scale up. The front end user the end user will not even able to notice uh, what is happening in the background. So they even did not notice, so automatically like things will get up and down. Okay, what will happen? So what will happen means it could be the predictive. So these question like what will happen, what happened, right? So there are 4 to 5 questions which will room around this, so you should go through this. Even generally I get confused as well. Some are very easy, like what will happen, so that is a prediction, so that is a predictive. Okay, you have an Azure SQL database server named server 1 and a single database on it called DB1. Your development team wants to add a second database, so what will the effect of second adding a second database on the cost? So we have a server, and on the server we are running one database. Now on the same server we want to run the second database, so definitely the cost will increase. So it doesn't the case for the pool, right? In the pool the cost will not increase because we are paying for the pool, but here it is for the server. So we are attaching the database into the server, not in the pool, so definitely the cost will increase. Which of the following are common characteristics of a relational database? Okay, so data stored in a CSV format wrong, JSON format wrong. So relational database is a foreign key database, prevent deletion of a parent record if a child record is true. Data is shown in table format of rows and columns, true. If you set up your SQL database networking with no access, what type of user can connect to the database. So if we set up a database networking with no access, then no user can access the database. Okay, what type of analytics use advanced data such as sensor, camera sensor embedded in a store machine to offer customer who looked at an item but didn't buy it an extra discount by email. Okay, so what the question is saying, let's suppose the person go into the store. So in the store we have this like cameras. So what will happen, so the person is roaming around into the store and the person is looking into the items. So the person checked the price of the particular item but did not buy the particular item. So what they can do is, so they can record the all these the person detail. Okay, this person came into the our store, he look at the particular item but he did not buy this item, maybe because of price. So what we can do is, we can like give an we can send an email, some voucher email. Okay, so this is the voucher for you, so next time if you go to the store you can like purchase that particular product. So these things come into the cognitive services, because here we are using the IoT devices. So camera sensor are the IoT devices. We are like getting the data and we are using the existing services like computer vision services or custom vision services. So we are using the cognitive services here. Which of the following Azure instance use the SQL Server database engine? So SQL Server database engine, so SQL managed instance, SQL Server in a VM, Azure SQL database. So these three MySQL will not use. Cosmos DB is also the known relation, so these three will use the SQL Server database engine. How does a relation database enforce data integrity? Prevents record from being deleted if other record rely on them, true. Prevent null values on column which do not allow null values, correct. Prevent record from being inserted if records they rely on doesn't exist, correct. Ensure every column follow the data type, correct. Azure Data Factory support existing SSIS package that can run into them into the cloud, true. If you set up your SQL database networking with the public endpoint without any other action, which type of user can connect to the database? So no user. Even if you set up the networking as a public endpoint, so still no user can connect to the database, because we have to set up a firewall first, and on the firewall before the networking we have to set up the firewall, and in that firewall we have to, because they say we just set up the networking without any other action. Alright, so other action is required. We have to set up the firewall, and in the firewall we have to like ingress and the egress property, like whether all the connection can enter, what all the connection can like exit. So we have not done anything, so no user can access. What type of SQL command deal with the management of the database, like creating or altering? So creation come into the DDL. Don't confuse with the management term. So first read the question properly, including creating or altering, so it come into the DDL. What is the cheapest way? So cheapest way is always the blob storage, in which just we put the images, videos, table, SQL, Cosmos. These are the costly, but blob storage very cheap. What is a good example of paginated report? So paginated report is a report which fit into a page, and we can like print it. So it is an example of invoice. Which of the following Azure database service has granted 100% compatibility with SQL Server running in your own environment? So SQL Server in a VM. So 100% guaranteed. In the previous question it was mentioned almost 100%. So in that case SQL managed instance was the answer. It was guaranteed. So when we spin up our own virtual machine, so and we installed our own SQL server, then it is definitely true that like whatever the SQL server we are running in our own premises, the same SQL server, same configuration we can do in our virtual machine which we spin up. So that can be 100% guarantee that it will like compatible. What type of database workload is best for the data that is historical and not used in day to day? And going back to, so if we have to store the data which will be used maybe after 10 years, 15 years, so the best is data warehouse. So put the data into the data warehouse. Okay, why did it happen? So why did it happen means like the diagnostic. So why did this occur? So is there is any like error? So it comes into the diagnostic. Which of the following are the common characteristics of a data warehouse? So data warehouse definitely support the massive amount of data, right? And what are the other options? Database optimized for writing? No. The significant pre-processing happens? No. Database optimized for reading by being normalized. What happens when you add a new property to a JSON document that doesn't exist in any another document? So let's suppose, so the same question, similar type of question, not a same question, came again. So it's a Cosmos DB, that is the NoSQL. So we are inserting a JSON document with a new property. So what will happen? So nothing will happen. It will just get insert without touching the earlier document. So you can dynamically insert a new property and insert will succeed. Previous document will not be updated. Definitely correct. Okay, so we are doing the ETL, extract, transform, and load. A data column modified to match the date with the destination format, and we are changing the date to this. So this changing will come under which step? So it is a transformation. So we change this format to this format. Azure Data Factory triggers. Azure Data Factory supports a trigger that is scheduled at a predetermined time but can pretend it is running at another time. For instance, a job runs every day at noon but only process the data received until midnight last night. What type of trigger is? So it is a tumbling window trigger. So tumbling window trigger, like in which we will define the a particular time. So it doesn't matter whether when the job is running, but we will define the time. Okay, till this time whatever the data will come we will process. So who invented this Cassandra database? So Cassandra is also the NoSQL database. The Facebook is the inventor of this, and I think after that it is owned by the Apache. So let's finish the test. Okay, so all the questions are correct. So thank you.